Hey everyone, Brendan Sander here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to a special review for the brand new Foreigner 4 Deluxe Edition. This is a brand new box set. It is a 5-disc deluxe edition of their 4th studio album that was also called 4, originally released in 1981, but this just came out on September 12th of 2025. I'm going to do a full breakdown, review, unboxing, everything on it. We'll get into it here in just a bit. But if you are new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this, talking about the brand new Foreigner 4 Deluxe Edition 5-disc box set. So the original album, which is this one here, and right off the bat, we can see that they've updated the artwork. More on that later. But the original album came out in 1981, titled 4 because it was the 4th studio album, but also another interesting fact was that the band had gone from 6 members down to 4 members. And so Foreigner was already on a roll when this album came out, having their 3 previous albums, the self-titled in 1977, Double Vision in 1978, and Head Games in 1979. All of these being big hits for them. But with the album 4, the band was about ready to go through the stratosphere. It was a huge commercial success around the world. It held the #1 position on the Billboard 200 album chart here in the US for 10 weeks. It would go on to sell 6 million copies just in the US alone. So no wonder the album itself is getting a deluxe edition. The only question is why, after 44 years, or why did it take 44 years for it to happen? I mean, I would have thought they would have done this at, say, the 25th anniversary, the 30th anniversary, the 40th anniversary, but no, instead, here we are for the 44th anniversary, I guess. Maybe they should have waited until 2026 and done a nice round number of 45 years. But either way, here we are finally getting the deluxe edition treatment for this fantastic album. So what's inside this thing? There's 4 CDs and a Blu-ray. Up front, we've got 3 discs here, and I'll talk a little later about why you're seeing them grouped the way that they are, because this is actually backwards from the way it comes. But that's how they are in here. And the backside does give you the full breakdown. Let me talk about what that is for you guys. So 5 discs total, but 4 CDs and 1 Blu-ray in here. The CDs have 59 tracks on it. The Blu-ray, 21 tracks, and it is Blu-ray audio. So all 80 of those tracks, though, are previously unreleased. And I found it fascinating that of the 4 CDs, there is not a remastered edition in here. So that is why all 80 of the tracks in this are considered unreleased. That said, the remix that's in here is so close to the sound of the remaster, I can understand why in the end of the day they didn't include a remaster as part of this. Plus, the remaster that's part of this one here, when Rhino did its original remasters and included some unreleased material at the time, this is fantastic for what it is. I don't think it needed to be updated. But let's go ahead and talk about disc 1, the 2025 remix, because this was actually the thing that I thought would be the most interesting in here and why I really wanted this box set. So everything on it is cleaned up slightly. There is more space between the instrumentation, which is kind of a typical thing that happens when we get these remixes. The technology back in the day, while fantastic and great engineers and people that worked on the album made a brilliant sounding album, today's technology can make it even better, a little more crisp, a little more, bright, but they kind of just kept everything where it was and moved it up a little bit more to the front of things. And as I said, added a little space that's between it. But I think to the layperson, the average person, you're not really going to hear it different. it's just going to sound very, very good. And I think that's pretty great that's in here. It's not made overly bright. It's actually falls somewhere right in line with the same sound level as the remaster that's already been available. It does still sound very organic. Still sounds like it was made in 1981. Um, some remixes are very drastic. This one here is only slightly enhanced. No real changes on it. All the modifications are extremely subtle. I really had to go back and forth between the remaster and this to really hear the subtle differences. Like I said, there was some things that were moved a little more to the forefront, and just in general, it sounds a bit cleaner and with a little bit more space between everything. But that is where the remix stands as far as this goes. So it wasn't a big drastic change. It wasn't like the remixes that we heard when they put out the album Can't Slow Down. It came with a bonus disc of their sort of hits that were remixed. That sounded fantastic and had an alternate flavor to it. This really does not. So let's move on to disc 2 in here, the unreleased songs and alternate versions. There's 4 unreleased outtakes in here, and that's kind of really the creme de la creme of this box set. The first track, Fool If You Love Him, then Love So Much Better, Knockout Power, and the other one called Jealous Lover. So those are the 4 outtakes that are in here. Everything else is an alternate version of what's already been available from the original album, the original 10 tracks. So the song Fool If You Want Him is actually kind of an interesting one because it was originally recorded in 1980 as part of the original session, but it only had one verse. So they recently finished it in 2025. They brought Lou Gramm back in to write 2 new verses or to complete the song and go in and sing those 2 additional verses. And then the current lineup of Foreigner added additional guitar, piano, organ, and background vocals to it, finishing it off into a completed song. And it is a really good track. It has stuck with me ever since I heard it, and I think it's far better than the new track that they had included on the recent best of that they did, that I believe also had new vocals sung by Lou Gramm. This one here I think is a far superior song. That one from the collection, and I forget its title, was a 1995 recorded song, whereas this one here was a 1980 recorded song and then finished off. So if you haven't already heard it, there is a distinct change between 1980 Lou Gramm singing on the first verse and him coming in on the second. It sounds like 2 different people, but it's kind of cool to have an old new song and to have the cross sort of pollination of the original 4 guys from the album versus the, I don't know, 5 or 6 or however many guys they have present day, but all working together essentially on that track. So that's kind of cool. The other 3 outtakes are completely from the original 1980 sessions. Knockout Power and Jealous Lover, though, actually use the same music, but have different lyrics and different vocal melodies. Really, the only part where it starts in with sort of a running bass line on it is the part that sounds the same. And it took me a minute, but I started to realize that was hearing the same thing. Once the song actually kicks in and goes, it sounds different because of the way that it is sung. So it really is like having 2 separate outtakes, but like I said, they do use the same music for them. The 4 or these tracks, as I was saying at the beginning of this, are really sort of the gem of the box set. And now, in my opinion, having heard the remix and hearing this is really what it would be worth to pick this up, unless you're just looking for a very cool overview of the whole album. But those 4 tracks are very interesting. So now the alternate editions, which are the remaining tracks on this discs too, they're very interesting to hear. It's like being a fly on the wall. That's always a lot of fun. But there are a number of songs that repeat and they're sequenced one right after the other. And I've never been a big fan of that. If I've heard one version of the song, I don't want to hear that same song again immediately right after it. That said, a couple of them are quite unique and fairly short at that. So Waiting for a Girl Like You, there is a vocal and piano version of it that's only like a minute and a half. Then there's I'm Gonna Win, an a cappella edition, which might only be, I don't know, somewhere between 15 to 20 seconds. So some of them are fairly short, but other ones are full length tracks, and you do listen to them being relatively the same. And I kind of wish they had sequenced it a bit different. One of the best alternate takes on there actually doesn't say what it is that is different, other than I'm guessing just that it's an alternate take. It is a very bass heavy version of the song Jukebox Hero that gives it a different vibe. That's cool. I kind of wish they picked the best of these alternate versions and included as a separate disc the alternate Foreigner 4, and it just ran the same 10 tracks, and then maybe even tacked on these 4 outtakes at the end, or mixed them in however they wanted to do it. I think that would have been a better, more interesting listen to this, and instead of having the same track, having to hear 2 versions of Jukebox Hero, 2 versions of Urgent, and so forth and so on. All right, moving on to disc 3 and the box set. It's instrumental rough mixes from 1980. And it kind of all just sounds the same as what you already hear on the album. They're instrumental, so no vocal. They are rough mixes of that, which means they didn't change much from that point, but they probably mixed it down, maybe even to set the tone for getting the right vocal take from Lou Gramm, or just to hear how these songs were coming out. But after a while, it kind of gets a little bit boring. And the only reason I say that is not to knock the music. It's just that Foreigner was never a band that noodled on guitar, had a lot of interesting fills or lead licks. They're not a progressive band that has very complex playings of instrumentation behind it, where when you take something, vocals away from, say, a progressive rock band like Yes, and you just listen to the music, you're actually kind of blown away by all the extra instrumentation that you're hearing that you maybe never heard before, because the vocals took the front and center. And I don't really get that. On a couple of the tracks, though, they are interesting. In particular, the song Urgent, there is a bass version of that, which really you can hear the cool, interesting bass playing on it. And that becomes the upfront thing that stands out. And that was a fun little listen. But all in all, like I said, I don't really have any inkling to listen to these instrumental versions of it. And kind of, once I'm done having given it a good listen, will probably be the only time I listen to that particular disc. Also, several of the tracks do repeat. So again, it's the same thing. And since there's not a lot of interest in the first place, you're listening to virtually the same thing again. We move on to the disc that is probably of the most interest to most people, disc 4, live on tour from 1981 to 82. And this is, of course, live recordings. They all sound good, they're crisp, they're clear. The performances, though, in my opinion, aren't the best. They feel really live, which is good and unique because it doesn't sound like they went in and touched anything up. And considering how little live material there is from this era of the band, I think it makes it really cool to get it as part of this. And so there comes from 3 shows. The material was recorded across Birmingham, England, August 26, 1981, Dortmund, Germany, December 19th, 1981, and Anaheim, California, July 17th, 1982. So interesting how the performances in here span a year's worth of time. And you do hear that, I believe, in this in terms of the band really gelling after playing so much together on a particular tour. Some of the performances are really tight and other ones are very loose. And the other thing of note is some of the tracks are slightly different. So the opening track, Long, Long Way From Home is a faster, revved up version to the point that it almost sounds like the tape was sped up. And I'm hoping that is not the case. I'm hoping they really just played it that fast in concert, maybe even just on this tour. I don't know. Some of you foreigner aficionados out there that know more about the band and their live shows should weigh in and let me know if the speed of Long, Long Way From Home on this live disc is actually the way they were playing it during that tour, or do we have a mistake or an error on our hands? I did check out the rest of the tracks and didn't seem to find any of them to what I felt was the sped up, revved up version. So I'm hoping that was just actually how they did it. But to my ears, it sounds really incorrect and out of place because it's just usually not that fast. On the song Urgent, there is a more funky, soulful version of it, which is very cool. And the rest of them, to my ear, pretty much sounds exactly as the songs are performed on the albums. And so that's good. We want that, but there's also a little uniqueness and difference in a couple of these, which too makes it a lot of fun. And disc 5 is the Blu-ray audio portion featuring the album in Atmos remix and stereo remix. And you just get the album itself and also the song Fool If You Love Him, but you don't get all the other content remixed in Atmos. So just know that you're not getting the whole box set in Blu-ray audio. You're getting only the album proper plus that one new song. So let's go ahead and look at it now. I talked a lot about the content and everything in here. So we already looked at this. And as we see, you know, difference in the album artwork. I got to say, I actually really like this. And I was hoping they were going to put this out single disc as the remix. Now I kind of understand why they didn't. But right now, it's that maybe one day down the road, we'll get a single disc version of that. So there you go, the original art updated, very cool in my opinion. There's the spine. This is a book edition, and you do get all the content spelled out on the back side, which is nice because sometimes, you know, that piece of paper comes off and that is it. All right, so now I mentioned that you see the discs that are in here, but in discs 1 and 2 did not come in the back. They started in 1, 2, and 3, I believe in this order here. But this is so difficult to get the discs out of. You have to push down. Let's see if I can even do it while there. And then the disc will pop out of it. And I just find that to be very difficult. I'm also worried about snapping these little tabs that are down there. And so the back has more typical press the middle thing and the disc pops out. And so discs 1 and 2, I feel like I will be playing more than the other 3 discs, and the Blu-ray, not at all, because I'm not into that sort of thing. So that one's going to stay back there. But I reorganized my CDs so that I have easier access. You might choose to do the same just to protect those extra little clips that are in there. And then I don't want to bend this overly too much, but we get into this, and this is very cool the way they broke this down. You know, we get credits and things like that up front, but we start with a producer's note by Jeff Pilson, the current bassist and sort of musical coordinator of the group, and he talks about having coordinated and put this thing together and helped organize it and all that sort of stuff. And then, by the way, I just noticed I had this in there. So that was the hype sticker across the front. I use it as a bookmark. I cut these things out and stick them in there. You then get an interview, and you get it with all 4 members of Foreigner from the time frame. Then you get Dave Whitman, who is the engineer. Thomas Dolby played on this. Remember Blinded by Science? So he plays synthesizer on the album. The president of Atlantic Records at the time and the vice president of singles promotion at the time from Atlantic Records. All those people weighing in an interview talking about the album, which is very cool. And then after you've gone through that, and I'll just show a little bit more of what that looks like in here, because you get some cool singles and photos of the group within all of this. Then you get to, see if I can get to it. I'll find it in here. There we go. a track-by-track commentary where it has all those same people and then adds in someone like Mark Rivera, who played saxophone, sung background. So he also gets asked about stuff and gets to weigh in on it. There's not a crazy amount of photos, say from live on tour or anything of that nature. It's all singles and things like that. I'm kind of surprised there wasn't actually any live shots in this thing, especially when you have a live on tour. They do show in here, see if I can find it real quickly. It was one of the first images, there we go, the tour program. And I don't know why they didn't replicate the tour program because of the live show, at least in the back of this thing. Of course, I would have complained that it wasn't a separate item standalone, but I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do that in here. Still, all in all, these are fun. If you like the sort of Jethro Tull box sets that are like this, and a lot of people think this is a prime format, I love this, and I love the boxes that are about this same size, that are the lift top ones that like White Snake do and Black Snake does. So this is a great format in my opinion, and I'm glad it's not the big book or anything like that. So bottom line on this thing, I think this deluxe edition was way overdue. Shocking how long it had taken to get it. And then it hasn't been done before, and it hasn't been done for any of their other albums that were hugely successful as well. I hope this is the start of the first three albums getting done in this same sort of treatment. I think they would sell just as well as this is. But it's great to get it. I think the content is interesting. And the overall price of this thing, Amazon right now, $45 for 5 discs. At $45, even if you don't care about some of the content, or like me, I might never listen to that instrumental disc again, that's okay. It's only 45 bucks. So great price, great quality, great unique stuff that's on here. We get some unreleased outtakes, which I think is totally worth it. That remix sounds fantastic, and I know a lot of you guys love the live content. So I think it's totally worth it. If you chose to pick this up or you streamed it, let me know your thoughts on it. But all in all, I hope you guys enjoyed my review, breakdown, and unboxing of it. And so there you go. Weigh in, let me know your thoughts, and all in all, have a great one, everyone. Bye-bye.